Hello everyone and welcome back to the Hermes task group. Today we're going to have a look at the Case 1 day ops to and from the deck as a single ship. So big thanks needs to go out to Camflip here, who's letting me share this video from his recent Wings Phase 2 flight. I'll talk a bit more about the Wings phases later, but in the meantime, let's get started.
But stay in the pattern. That is still set for taxis.
So I'm going to get us back to where he's going to just about to taxi.
So right here,
I'll let him talk us through it.
Over the runway. Start going through some checks here. Stab is still set for taxi. Let's taxi.
Caution.
Taxi out of here. Those will steering. Anti-skid rather is coming back on. So we'll get lined up here.
So we know he's done all his pre-taxi checks. He's got 4 degrees trim set down there. He's going to get lined up for a stow takeoff and then head out to the boat. I'm sure he'll talk us through that in a minute.
Alright, brakes were held. Trim's coming back up to 2. Alright, let's get the engine page, Excel, coming up to 60. Looks good. Flaps coming down to stall. Alright, let's do our 2-finger checks. Stow stop is set to 60. Engine page is on. Spool time is good. Nozzles 30 degrees. And PSI is good. Back to 10. Nozzles back to 10. And then right on the empty. Alright. Those are steering on. Let's throttle up.
So we'll note that he's doing a takeoff with stall flaps for this, which is fine for this application. Just note if you're heavy, they can be pretty draggy, so don't be scared of using auto flaps for taking off in this mode.
Altitude 20, flaps going to auto, nozzles the way out.
Altitude.
200 knots.
Okay, so that's a good accelerating transition.
300 rather.
And then he's going to start his final turn out. So what we'll do in a minute, we'll pop out into, have a look at the...
Forget to quit doing that or I'll blow your eardrums out.
So you consider it. We'll have a look at the Wings program. Okay, so this is what Camflip's working on. So this, and I'll probably repeat this several times, is not like a training program per se. It's just a baselining exercise that we in the group use to try and ensure that we all know how everybody else is flying. That keeps things predictable, keeps things safe, and it keeps things efficient. So he's working on the stage 2 stuff. He's already done a lot of the other elements of stages 3, 4, and 5, but you know, these are kind of like the final 2 steps that he needs to do. And that's just for operations safely to and from the deck using Case 1 procedures during the day. And there's a bit more detail here. The thing that he's focusing on is taking off from the deck and remaining in the pattern per NavAir CQ patterns, and then fly to and land on the deck as a singleton. So he's actually going to do that in reverse order. And then once he's down safely on the deck, he'll take off again and we'll do a CQ pattern, which is slightly different with a few nuances, but that's essentially the plan. So I'm going to fast forward the video up to the point where we're getting to initials, and then we'll jump back in with Camflip. Okay, so we're 3.8 miles out with him, and he's at 770 feet, so he's pretty much set up at altitude and getting ready to come in.
Last check, stow stops back, nose steering's off. Lights will come off in the downwind.
So at this point, 350 knots is what the NATOP say. Sometimes we use 360 just because it divides easily by 60 knots, but either is good.
Right
and
at
again, all
most
brief before.
max gross, so we're going to be.
So check the weight, he's good.
On this one.
Did fly past the boat there, and we should have deliberately had a look at it and make sure that our landing spot was clear.
10 seconds. Alright, now it's going back. Looking for a 10 AOA
Okay.
pole.
10 degrees in the upwind, and looking for, it will be about 3.5 G to start, and that will start relaxing as we get through to the downwind. Staying at 800 feet, speed's bleeding off, we can get the gear and the flaps out any moment now.
Alright, gear's coming down. Flaps stall. Water's coming on. Stall master mode. Also 60.
At this point we want to check our anti-skids off and our lights are off. And if this is a towered boat, which this isn't, obviously we would be making our calls to say Vixen 1-2 a beam, gear down full state 2.1, drive or wet.
90. A little bit further. Coming up there looks good. We'll start turning with a rudder. Start gentle descent.
Right, so 600 feet, he starts to turn, he's looking for about 450, halfway through the 90, which is about now.
11, 10, looks good.
Or 400,
It's
450
the
is what the book
90,
says.
just under 400. I like that for Hermes because it's a little shorter deck.
And there we go, great reasoning.
And we're going to be looking final right up next to the boat, look about 90 to 100 feet.
And pretty much perfect rollout
Lights are
onto
on.
the
Should have done that
onto
on
the
the
group.
downwind. Nozzles in, 8 TME, or rather 0.8 TME.
So when we're going into a good headwind,
Especially
0.5
since I'm heavy,
DMEs.
I don't want to chase down the boat while burning water.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So 0.5 is the minimum. Probably 0.3 or 0.4 would be perfectly acceptable as well without an overtake situation.
Still generally decent. There's 0.5 DME. Also, gonna come back. 0.4. Hover stop.
On the sight picture we're looking for when we're being the deck
drop off.
is to have the radar
107
on the
up.
horizon, or the bottom of the radar on the horizon. That will tell us we're roughly at the right height.
Hold what we got right there, so I'm not chasing the boat down too much. There's 110. Those is gonna come up, start slowing down. There's 100, right where I want to be. Make sure the stop comes. Looking for about 24, I think, if my math's right. There we go. Call it 26. Start coming over. Water's on. Altitude's 90. Looks good. Lined up with the tram line. Alright. Just commit to the descent. Coming down. Brakes held. Power off. Alright, flaps up. Nozzle 0.
There you go, pretty much bang on. Slightly
And
left and
water's
forward to
coming
spot
back
5, but definitely serviceable.
Alright, so that's case 1. Let's take it right back on.
So before he takes right back off, let's have a talk about the profile and what's different with the next CQ pattern. So you can see that here all the numbers with the red box, just to point out, as Camflip pointed out in the final or halfway through base turn, was that the deck is a bit lower. So we tend to aim for 90 feet for the crossing. What we'll be doing next, or what Camflip will be doing next, will be taking straight back off and then staying in the pattern. So the only difference between this and a regular case one is you level off at 600 feet, and then you keep the gear down and you keep the flaps in the stall. The slight gotcha that's there is making sure that you remember to move the nozzle stop to aft, because you're going to have to set the nozzle stop for 40 degrees for the ramp, and then when you get into downwind, that nozzle stop needs to be reset, so you've got the ability to use the hover stop when you're back out on the groove. Now, those are the main points for this, but what we're going to do is we're going to speed the video up so he's ready to go again. Now, the other thing that you'll note is he's going to take off essentially from the 450 foot mark, which is not a problem when you're light. If you're particularly heavy, if you're carrying 6 Mark 82s bags and a full tank of gas, there is a bump on the deck at about the 250 foot mark, and that bump can cause some damage to the undercarriage. So as a rule of thumb, takeoff or lead aircraft would normally take off from about 350 feet, and then the second aircraft from 400, and then any aircraft following would taxi forward up to 350 and 400 again. Okay, so let's jump back into the aircraft.
A CQ pattern that the NATOPS talks about. We're going to take off, climb to 300 feet. At 300 feet and above, we can start our turn, our arcing 180 back to the downwind, top it off at looking for pattern altitude of 600 feet, and then it's going to be rinse and repeat of what we just did. So that's the plan. Let's see how it works out. All right, brakes are held. Stab's good. Water's off. Flaps are stowed. Set to 40. All right. Powered up to 60. Coming all the way. There's the bump. The ramp. Likes to climb, so steam nozzles fluid for now. Let's do this. Let's do dumps on.
Okay, so there goes the stow stop, and it's getting configured for the downwind. Another point to note with this configuration is you tend to be slower when you're coming into the downwind. Now you'll see that when he rolls out, he's pretty much bang on the 1 mile beam, which is perfect. But because he's going to be probably about 10 knots slower than a regular case one, when you coordinate the base turn to final, you'll see that actually causes you to turn a bit tighter than you would normally. So that's not a problem. It's easy to correct and easy to catch, but when you do this for the first time, just be wary of that so you don't
breathe. 1 mile DME a beam, that looks good. Trim's good, still stops back. That's 3,000 pounds. Going to start a turn in. Keep it coming down. A little high at the 90. Salvage that.
Again, still well within limits on this. See a few of the plumes of smoke coming from the boat. should give us a rough idea of what the centerline heading is, and you can see we're a little bit tighter than we were last time.
Not as pretty as the last one. Still mostly serviceable. Alright, 240 at 0.6 DME, that's not bad. Bars on, nozzles at 60. We're still doing 80 knots, which is good, not chasing down the boat too bad. 0.4, we're gonna come back to hover
Okay,
stop,
so
catch it.
0.3, 0.4 for the hover stop, and this speed is probably bang on. You should find that that's going to nicely decelerate him to the spot.
So you chase the boat down a little bit. We're a lot lighter, so we're not burning water on this one, so not the end of the world. Let's get settled into our nice altitude. 10, looking for 90 to 100.
Okay, so great attitude there to get a nice steady deceleration whilst descending at 100 feet. There you go. Still got a bit of a closing speed on that, so he's pitching the nose up.
Let's see if we can't get spot 5 this time.
There
Up over the deck. Set. Keep it nice and
great
centered.
pitch attitude. 300 feet per minute descent, and there we go.
Power's down. Alright.
Okay, so first off, full disclosure, you know, it's a lot easier to sit here and run through a commentary as somebody else is flying, so I'm learning a lot from watching Camflip go through this. You know, he's a very good pilot and is very capable, and he's flying these patterns to a really high degree of accuracy. When we do go through these and debrief either individually or as groups, you know, the key things that we're kind of looking at with regards to handling the plane is making sure that we're not exceeding particular regimes of flight. So by that I mean, you know, making sure alpha is plus or minus 2 units, although being careful on the high side because high alpha exceedances are not desirable. Altitude plus or minus 100, airspeed plus or minus 20. These are pretty arbitrary, it's what we're choosing to go by, but it's definitely something that definitely attainable, as you've just seen there. And the other thing that we're looking at is just making sure that we're being disciplined with some of the checklist items, particularly the ones that are likely to kill you. So forgetting to turn on anti-skid or turn off anti-skid, setting trim correctly, nozzle stop position, nozzle position, water, flaps and gear. So those are the key things. I want to thank Camflip again for letting us use his video to as a demonstration. For anybody else that's going through and doing phase 2, please do use this as an exemplar and something to kind of focus on. If you've actually flown the Harrier to the deck in real life, or at least a British deck, we'd love to hear from you. It's pretty hard to find guys that have flown the GR7s, 9s and certainly the Shahs. We're doing this for fun, and we're always looking to learn and get a bit better. So if you've got any of that first-hand experience, we would love to hear from you. As usual, I'll put a link in the description to our Discord channel. Feel free to reach out, introduce yourself, and come fly with us. So until next time, thanks very much. Bye-bye.